Hello everyone, welcome to part 3 of the fundamentals of Next.js 14. This part 3 is titled Database Setup with Prisma. That means we are going to be setting up our database here with Prisma. We're going to model that data and we are going to be querying the database as well with Prisma, and we are going to build the dashboard UI all in this section. Now, this is the section where the real fun begins. So, without wasting much time, let's check what Prisma is all about in their documentation. If you come here to your browser, you open a new tab. You type let's type prisma.io. It's going to present you with their dashboard, their welcome screen here. You can click here, get started, to see what they offer you here. So what we are interested in here is this. What is Prisma? Let's check what is Prisma here first. Here they say Prisma is an open source next generation ORM. It consists of the following parts. We have the Prisma client. The Prisma client, what it does is it auto-generates types for us and also query builders for Node.js and TypeScript. We have the Prisma migrate. It has a migration system built right into Prisma. That means we can move up and down our migration history. Yes, we can roll back our migrations and we can create new migrations in order to move up and down through our database. We have the Prisma Studio. This is a graphical user interface that we can use to view, edit our data, view and edit our data. Now, what is ORM? I skipped to explain this here. Is an ORM simply stands for Object Relational Mapper. That means Prisma is able to take our objects, which we write in the form of modules, and turn them into database tables for relational database, and it turns them into documents for non-relational database like MongoDB. So what Prisma does is that it takes these models, and it writes SQL statements for us in case of relational database. It's going to write some SQL statements for us, and we know that SQL statements are kind of challenging for some people and people who are entering into programming, especially without knowledge of how the database language. So Prisma is the getaway from writing SQL statements. SQL statements are also error prone because we write them all in a string, so there's no type checking for us, and so it has a lot of things, but it's very efficient with working with the database. It's very efficient when working with the database. So because of this, we are going to be using Prisma so that everybody feels comfortable with writing the normal objects which we have been using. Now, if you scroll down, you will check how does Prisma work. We have Prisma schema. You have to define a schema like this. This is for relational database here, and this is for MongoDB. It's almost the same thing. It's just the providers which change here. The provider here is PostgreSQL. We are going to be using PostgreSQL in production, but in development, we are going to be using SQLite. So here, you see, we need to define a data source and a generator. This generator indicates that you want to generate a Prisma client. Then we also have the data model, which define our application modules. Now, you can go and look at the Prisma documentation. It's very simple. Yes, it's very simple. You can look at it. It's in plain English. Let's go and see how we can get Prisma up and running. So let's come to get started back here. Let's check for, let me see, this is quick started guide. Here, you see, these are the guides to start here from scratch. You see, we need to initialize a new node project here. We need to install Prisma. We're going to start with this one here. To install Prisma here, I'll first copy this command, and I'll go to my application. Let's come back here, and here, let's open a new. Okay, we already have a window here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to paste this command here, npm install Prisma. It's going to install Prisma. Okay, we have an error. Why? Let's install it again. Now our package is finished installing. Let's check what we need to install again. We also need to this command here, npx is init. We have this -- provider. We need to give the provider, which is going to be SQLite, because we are going to be using SQLite here. So I'm going to copy this. I'll copy this too. Then after that, we can set up our module. run this command when we have defined all our module. This to migrate our database. We're going to run this command, and yeah, I think that is it. Now let's go back here. I'm going to paste this command, Prisma init. Okay, it already created. Let me see. Warning, you already have a git.ignore file. Okay. So if you look here, you see that we have a Prisma folder here. In this Prisma folder, we have schema. Okay. You see, we already have the schema here. The provider is set to Prisma clients here. Then for the data source is SQLite. Here we are importing the environment, our database URL from the environment variables from .env. If you look here, Prisma will create a .env for us. Let me see. This is it. And if you look here, you have this database URL here. That is what Prisma is reading from this schema file here. Now, this is the skeleton of this Prisma schema. It is in this section that we are going to be writing our database modules. I'm going to begin writing this module. We'll start with the users module. So here we just write module, say user ID. First going to be an integer. This is going to be of type string here, string, and it's going to be at ID. At default is going to be a UCD. It's going to be a CUID. Yes, like this. Now, if you're writing your code and it's not getting started out like this, what I recommend you to do is, it is not showing you IntelliSense. You come to your extension tab here. You come to extension tab here. Just try to type Prisma. Just type Prisma in your extension. You'll see this first link. Where's the Prisma link? Oh, what is this? Prisma. This is it here. This one. You install this Prisma extension here. It's going to give you that syntax highlighting and also some linting errors. It's going to show you some errors if you are doing something that the Prisma schema doesn't support. It's going to show you an error. Okay, so this was just for to increase your productivity. Now, if you come here, we need to write another property here, and this time around is going to be our avatar. Avatar. This is going to be a string, and I'm going to have an address here, which is also going to be a string, a phone number for the user, which is going to be a string, a username, which is also going to be a string, and an email, which is going to be a string, and it's going to be unique. We're going to have the password, which is a string, and we don't yet have to put an order here. We just give created at, which is going to be a date time dot now. The default is going to be the current date when this user is being created. Now, I know you must be kind of confused if this is your first time of using Prisma. You're going to see these at symbols here everywhere. These are called attributes. We define attributes on these columns here. This attribute at ID is going to tell our database that this is an ID. This is a primary key. This is a primary key for this table here. This is a primary key for this table. So, and the default value is this UCID. We are using UCID here, this method, to generate a string that's going to serve as our ID. If you come here, this other attribute here, this at unique, this is just to tell us that this email is going to be a unique field. You have this at default, is just giving a default value just like here, but now here the value you are putting here is date. The date time, we are calling the date time function. So Prisma is going to know how to set the date for this field here. So with this, we have our user model here. Let's also create another one. I'm going to create this next one is going to be for orders. Say model order. I'll just call it order. Yes, like this. And I'm going to have also ID. ID is going to be of type string, just as before. It's going to also be an ID field, and at default is going to be okay like that. And also I'm going to have a product image, which is a string, a product name, which is a string, a user ID here. Yes, we're going to have a user ID, and also we are going to have a description, which is going to be a string. We're going to have tracking. No, we don't have tracking information here, so I'm going to skip that one. Here it's going to be price, which is going to be a float. Status is going to be a string, but I want to also give a default for this status, which is pending. Created at is going to be time, which is date.now, and also updated at is going to be just time. We're not going to have a default for it. It's just going to be time. So with this, we have our model. Now there's one property I'm missing here. We have destination, which is going to be a string as well. So with this, we have our other model. Now let's continue down the line and also create the next model, because we're going to have 3 models here. The next module here is going to be our tracking. So the ID is going to be the same thing. I'm not going to change the way I'm setting these IDs here. At default, okay, like this. Then the first property which we are going to be having here is going to be the arrival time. It's arrival time is going to be date time, and we are also going to get a status. Yes, status. The status is going to be pending, and also we're going to have latitudes. Latitude is going to be a string. Latitude is going to be a string, and longitude is going to be string also. Then we're going to have a location, which is going to be string, and it's going to be optional as well. We're going to have a carrier. There's going to be a carrier here. This is carrier. It's a string and it's optional as well. And also the carrier's number. Carrier's number, string and optional. This longitude and latitude also are optional. Yes, latitude, longitude is optional together with this status here. We must not have a status here. So this is just this is the best structure of our modules. We have our 3 modules now here. Let's begin to think about what we're going to do with these modules. How are we going to model it? What is the relationship between each of this module here? That is what we'll be talking about here. So let's start with the user here. If you look at the user's module, and okay, let me give some more room here so that we see. Let me hide this bar here, okay, so that we see all the modules light out here. Now, let's start with the user. When you order a product, you can order more than 5 products at once, right? That means a user can have more than 1 product. Can have more than 1 orders, because an order is actually a product. So a user can have more than 1 order. That means there's a one-to-many relationship between the user and orders here. There's a one-to-many relationship between user and order. So now the question is, how do we model a one-to-many relationship using Prisma here? You can come here and you specify the orders for this user. I'll just say orders is going to be an array. So orders is going to be an array. Now, if you hover your mouse over here, you see that this object here is complaining. So, but what are you doing here? You say you're missing the opposite relation field on the module order. You say, but how is this order going to know that I'm the one? How is this order going to know the user who owns the order? So we need to balance the other side of this relation here in this other module here. So here we are already specifying the user ID. So we need to give another here. We say user. We specify the user here. See, this is going to be of type user, and we say at relation. We are giving this attribute here again. So it takes 2 arguments here. We have the field, which happens to be the field in this other module, and we have the reference here, which is the reference to the parent module here, which happens to be the user, this ID. So this ID is going to reference the ID in the user module here, and this has to be the primary key here. So this is it. So in our database, since we are using relational database, in our database, this user ID is going to act as the foreign key for this table. Why? This is the primary key. This key is the primary key, and this user ID is the foreign key for this table. So I hope this explanation clears it for you. So that is not all. With Prisma, you can decide to make this component here, this model here, optional. That means you can define a user without necessarily creating. You can create an order without necessarily creating a user here. So you can set this here as optional here. It's still going to work very fine. If you do, when you do like this is called optional one-to-many relation. But we don't want this to be optional. We want the user this to be required here. So whenever we put an optional in each of these properties here, it shows that we can leave the space, we can leave that column empty, and we are not going to be thrown an error. So that is it for the relationship between user and orders. Now let's also check now about the relationship between an order and this tracking here. We need to try to check the relationship between an order and tracking. Now you see an order can only have one tracking information here, and also the tracking information can only be related to one order. Let me see that means there's a one-on-one relationship between our order and our tracking info. So now the next question is, how do we model that one-to-one relation in Prisma? Just like before, in the parent module here, because order is a parent of tracking here. So we can say this is the main order. We're going to say tracking, or say tracking. This here is not going to be an array because it's a one-to-one relation. So we can remove this array here like this. And down here, we are going to give another property here, which is going to be our order ID, which is a string. Now you see now that this order ID here is going to be the foreign key for the tracking module here. The tracking table is going to be the foreign key for the tracking table. Now when that is done, we also need to specify the relation. That means the scalar property here. This is usually called the scalar property, where we have this at relation defined on it. It's called the scalar property. Now the interesting thing about the scalar property is that this property is not going to be available in our database. It's never going to be in our database. Prisma is just using this property to query our data and to do some internal stuff with it. So this property here, this scalar property, it doesn't make its way into the database. Same with this one here, the one for the users. So whenever you have this at relation field on it, it's not going to be part of our database columns. So with that said, now we are getting this error here for this relation field. They say the relation field order on model tracking is required. It's no longer valid because it is not possible to enforce this constraint on the database level. Now this error is, we are throwing this error here. This error is being thrown here because here they say tracking has to be on the module which doesn't have this scalar property. You must set this this property here to an optional field. So if you put optional chain here, the error is going to go away. Let's see. Okay, but the error here is not actually gone. That means this order ID here, we need to make it unique also. We need to say this is unique. Yes. Or this is at unique, not just unique. Say at unique. Yes, and now the error goes away. So if you remove this property here, you're going to see the error is going to come back. So this has to be optional here. So with this is how we model a one-to-one relation with Prisma. You can also make this scalar property here optional. Let me see. I think you can make this scalar property here also optional. Yes. So, but it is this one, the one without a scalar property must be optional. But this, you can leave it as, you can make it optional, and also you can make it required. There is no problem with it. So with this, we have learned database modeling. We've learned how we can model our database with Prisma. Now there's something I want to show you also with Prisma here. You can change the table name in the database. For example, if I want to change the table name for this table, I don't want this table to be named like tracking in our database. Let's say I want it to be named like tracking info, or just say at map here, or call the map function. And here you can just specify what you want this database to be called. So I'll say tracking dash info like this. No info. Yes. So now this database is going to be called tracking info in our database, at the level of our database. But at the level of our Prisma schema, or in our application in Prisma client, we are still going to be referring to this model as tracking, while in our database the name is tracking info. So next, Prisma will know how to communicate this name from our module to our database, so we don't have to worry about that. The same thing goes for this order names. You can also change these order names here if you want. You can do that by also specifying this at. Just this, you can specify only one at map here. This is to tell Prisma that it is only one level. It's at the level of the column. So you can just say here lat. This is going to change latitude from latitude to lat in the database. While on the Prisma, while in the Prisma client, we're still going to be referring to it as latitude. So I just wanted to make you know that you can do something like this inside this Prisma schema here. So another thing I wanted to talk about is deleting. You can specify the behavior you want when deleting a product. For example, let's say you want to delete this order here. What are we going to do with this tracking? Because tracking is linked to order. So what if we're deleting an order? What are we going to do about this tracking information here, since they're linked together? Now, for that, we can use, there's an additional property here. We can use another, say on delete here. This, you can either set it to one of these 5 options here. So you have cascade. That means if you delete an order, the tracking information for that order is going to be deleted as well. You have no action. No action is going to be taken. You have restricted to. You can restrict it to specific users, and also you can set it to null. I think the default is this set default. You can also set it to null. That means if you delete this order, if you delete an order, the tracking information is going to be set to null. So what I want is this cascade. Cascade means if you delete order, tracking is also going to delete. So you can set it like that. Before we run our migration, let's also install Prisma clients before we run our migration. It's important. Let me see why this is not coming up. Okay, let's install Prisma clients before we finish installing our migration. So I'll come here, I'll say npx npm, it's not npx npm install at prisma / client, like that. Hit enter. Let's wait for it to install. Okay, Prisma client is installed. Now there are some additional packages which I want us to install. This is going to be ts node. I'll say npm install ts-node. Yes, this is going to be a dev dependency. So it's a save dev. Okay, it's installed. I also want to install npm install. I think this is called bcrypt.js. This bcrypt.js is going to use to encrypt our password. Okay, it's installed. So with these 2 packages installed, let's run our migration. Let's run a migration for this. I'll say npx prisma migrate, npx prisma migrate dev. Then we'll specify the name of the migration. I just want to call this initial. You don't have to give any space here. Just say initial dash migration. And let's hit enter. So create a migration without applying, created a migration without applying it. Okay, we are receiving this this one in here. That means we didn't create. Let's see what we are doing. So I just said dash name, which is not correct. It's going to be dash name. This flag here, this is an option. We need to put 2 dash here. Yes. Now let's hit enter. Okay, yes, my database, your database is now in sync with your schema. This migration was applied. This is the migration name here. You see this long name here is a migration name. See that initial migration which I declared earlier. This is it here. Now, if you come to our Prisma folder, you see another folder is being created for us. This migrate folder, and we have our database here. This is it. If you go over to our database now, you're going to see our database. But before we do that, let's check this migration folder and see what is inside. Let's come to migration SQL. Okay, voila, guys. You see, this is what I was talking about. This is how you create your tables with SQL. You're going to be writing SQL like this to create your tables. If we're creating this table with just SQL language, we're going to be writing it like this. This is a database language. So, see, we are creating the indexes here for this email key here. This is also for our foreign keys here. So these are foreign key constraints. So you see, you can take a look at the file here. These are all the tables that were being created. Now, let's close this. What I want to look at is our database. For us to look at our database, I want you, if you don't have the extension yet, come to extension tab here. You type SQLite. You're going to see this extension here by Alex CVZZ here. I don't know how that is pronounced. So this extension, you can install it and it will help you to get your SQLite server right inside of VS Code here. So to do that, I'm going to type here, type Ctrl-Shift-P to open this command palette here. The first option you see, you're going to see here your SQLite. If you don't see SQLite, just begin to type SQLite. So you're going to see it. So if you click open, it will show you these options. You have, this is our database. Our database is inside this Prisma folder here. prisma/dev.zb. This is it. If you come and look here, this is Prisma. This is the database folder. If you click on this database here, it's not going to open us it's not, it will show us an error because our VS Code cannot open this .zb extension. So we need that extension. We need that extension in order to open it. So here, okay, this was gone. Let's click SQLite and I'll choose this database now. If you click on it and you come down at the bottom left of your screen, you see this SQLite Explorer here open. Click on this database here and you see that we have our database table here all together with our migration history here. You see these are migrations here. So you see we have our tracking info. Look at what I was telling you. You see our database table here is tracking info. It's no more tracking, it's tracking info. Here it still remains user and it still remains order here, but here is tracking info. If you go into this column, you see, check the lat and long is latitude. You see, it's lat and long, not latitude and longitude. But in our schema here, we are still going to be referring to latitude and longitude in our models. Now, with everything nicely set up, let's see how we can create our database instance with Prisma, our Prisma instance, sorry, and we'll begin working with Prisma because the next objective now is to load data into this database. So we are going to create a seed script here in the Prisma folder to seed our database with. But before we create that seed script, let's come to the lib folder here. I'm going to create two new files here. The first one is going to be seed data seed-data.txt here. Now this is going to contain our seed data. I'm going to copy it from the GitHub repository. So you can also do the same. You can copy it from the GitHub repository of this video. So at the end of each video, I give the GitHub code for that video. So you can check it out there. So I'm going to paste the code here. So this is how the code looks, almost 500 lines. So you see, this is our tracking history here. Our tracking history ends here. This order info, that's our tracking history. And now from here now is our orders, the number of orders they have in the database. It ends here. And now this is users. We have only 4 users here. Now this is everything we have here. We have the seed data now here. What I'll do is let's go back to that lib folder. Let's go to lib. Where is it? Here. I want to create another file here. This is going to, I'll just call this prisma.ts. Now what is this prisma.ts going to do? For now, it's going to, this prisma.js is going to hold our database queries. So it is in this file that I want to export the Prisma instance, which we are going to create here. I'll say export const, I'll call this Prisma is equals to new, is equals to like new Prisma client, and we call it here. Now we have our Prisma here. Let's go back to let's go to this Prisma folder. We're going to create a new file here, and I'll call this seed.txt here. Okay. The first thing I'm going to bring here is our seed data. So import. I'm going to open scalable. I'll say orders. It's going to come from, I don't want this import here. I want to take it like this, our common module import. I can also get my users from here. This is users and also order info. Okay, just like this. Now I'll say async. I want to create a main function here. This is the function that's going to seed our data to the database here. Now I can say await promise.all. This promise.all, what we are doing here is we are just aggregating all the promises here because we are going to be looping over our users, our orders, and our order info to create them one by one. So it's good that we await all the promises. We aggregate all the promises at once. So here I'll open up like this. I'll say users. Let's start with the users dot map. We need to map over all the users, and we'll give an asynchronous function in here. Say user for each user here. Once like this, yes. In here now, we just want to say await prisma.user.create. We don't have to have this prisma here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in prisma. Prisma is going to come from app/lib slash Prisma there. Okay, but I don't want it like this. So I want common JS, yes. Now, if we are creating the users like this is not a good idea because we are just leaving our password plainly. That's the reason why I installed bcrypt.js after, because if we just leave our password like this, it's vulnerable. If someone gets rid or get their hands on our database, they can easily know our users. So we need to encrypt our passwords before we store them in the database. So what I'll do is I'm going to hash them actually as a const. I'll just say a hashed password here, hash passwords, and I'll call bcrypt library. I'll just bring this bcrypt. Okay, it's not available here, so I need to bring it from our inputs. So bcrypt.js. Say couldn't find a declaration file for this module. What we need to do is we need to install the types for this bcrypt. We need to install types for bcrypt. So here I'll say npm install add types slash bcrypt js. Okay, voila, it's installed. Now you see the error is gone because we now have TypeScript definitions for bcrypt here. Okay, now what we are hashing the password by just providing the password and a salt. I'm just giving a salt of 10 here. The higher the salt number here, the stronger the password is going to be. So, and also the more processing power is going to take from our CPU in order to hash this password. So it's not good to keep a very high number, which is going to slow down our application. So this 10 is okay. 10, 13 is good. Here, another thing is, what we can do now is I'll just give an object here like this, and I'll spread these users, and we'll change the password here. Okay, like this. I'll remove this one. Okay, we are just spreading the users here, and we are changing the password to the hashed password which we have here. So I'll save this now, and yes, I think we are done here. Let me see. We are awaiting this call. We are awaiting this one, and we are awaiting all the promises here. So that's good. What I want to do now is I want to just log a message to the console window stating, for example, like I want this to be a template literals, like we seeded 4 users to the database. For example, I seeded 4 users to the database. This is the message that I'm going to print on our console window. So let's do the same thing for our orders and our traffic tracking order here, or tracking info. So here we'll say await order.map. Yes, we are creating the orders here. We are spreading the order here. So you can just set the orders to whatever we have here, but it's okay to just spread it like this. And I'm also going to log a message like this. The last one which we are going to create here is this, our tracking info. Instead, with Prisma here, we are going to refer to it as tracking here. As I told you before, Prisma is still going to refer to this module here as tracking, while in our database is tracking info. Lastly, let's log also this to the console. Let's log this to the console. Here is going to be tracking info. Okay, everything is now good. I think with this now, we just need to call this method down here. I'll say main.catch. Want to catch any errors here, and this finally block here, we want to disconnect this Prisma connection, because when we are sitting to the database, we are opening the connection with Prisma, but we want to close that connection when we finish our work with Prisma. We need to close the connection, so that's why we're calling Prisma the close here. Okay, this was a long one, but it's not yet done yet. We need to run this script here. We need to run a script in order to execute this code here. And to do that, we need to go and configure a script in our package.json file. So p package.json. Let's come here. Right above the script section here, I want you to define another property here. And I'm going to call this Prisma. You also call it Prisma. And here, I'm going to say seed. No, seed is going to be like this. And we're going to have like this. Okay, I'll give a comma here. Okay, fine. Since we are using TypeScript for notes, we need to specify that we are using TypeScript here. So TypeScript dash note. If you just use note here, it's not going to work. So you need to say ts dash type dash note. That's why we install it in the first place. And now here we need to also give the compiler options here. I'll say compiler dash options. So what is this compiler options? Once you give some options for the compiler, like what module are we using? We are using the common JS module. So we need to specify that here also. So first thing is I'll just escape the first quotation mark here and I'll write module. And also I escape this other quotation mark equals to quotation mark escape again. And I'll say common JS here. And I'll escape the last quotation mark. Okay, this is done. We are done with the script here. We can now come to our application down here. Let's run this script here. To run this script, we're going to type this command here. So npx prisma. I hope this is a command. npm prisma seed npm prisma seed db. Then okay, db seed, not seed db seed, like this. Hit enter. Okay, it is running our compiler. Okay, we have a problem. The seed command has executed, but it has a problem. So let's check what the error message is saying. So if you check here, if you look at the message here, it's telling us that now the first thing you need to first note here is that you see those messages which we wrote. We have seeded 4 users, seeded 2 orders, 20 orders. You see that our orders and our users and our orders were created successfully, but our tracking information was not created successfully. That's why this error was thrown now here. So it's saying that unknown argument carrier's number. That means our carrier number have a problem here. Say, did you mean carrier number? So these are the available options. It can be optional. So what we need to do is first of all, let's first check if we have these properties. These two, the users and the orders, were created successfully. So if you come to our SQL Explorer here, let's click on order. Okay, guys, you see we have a table here. This is our order table. I'm just going to enlarge this like this here. You see we have our order table here. These are product images, product name, user ID. So you can scroll down and you go like this. You see we have all the information here. This is for our orders, but tracking is still going to be empty because a problem occurred and our data doesn't go to the database. So we have here also users. These are the 4 users here. This is the ID, the avatar. So okay, that one is working. But let's check this tracking info. Let's check what is wrong with this tracking info before we continue. Let's go to, I think this is Prisma schema here. Carrier number. Okay, this carrier number. This is supposed to be carrier's number. And also for this carrier, I want to set a default here. I want to set at default. Default is going to be like, I'll just give a default name here to be broken shipping. Broken carrier. Okay, let's just say broken carrier. That's it. So let's just cross check if this is the actual name we have in our seed data here. Let me see. Let's go to tracking. Okay, we have carrier's number. Yes, that's carrier's number. That's correct. So we can come back to Prisma schema here. Okay. Now what we need to do is we need to delete this users orders and this order and users orders here. If not, we're going to have a problem while we are seeding back this database, because this database have to be empty before we seed it. So as for that, I'm just going to the first thing I want to do is, first of all, is since we have made changes to our database, we can push the changes to the database. We can push the changes, say, or say npx prisma push here. Yes, if you say npx prisma push, is going to push these changes to our database. These changes we've done just now. Oh, this is not correct. You say npx prisma db push. I forgot db again. Okay, now our changes have been pushed. Your database is now in sync with your Prisma schema done at this. Okay, the Prisma client was also regenerated. Now, what I want to do now is I want to create another terminal. In this terminal, I want to load our Prisma studio. The Prisma studio. I want to load the Prisma studios here. So npm. This is, I think this is npx run Prisma studio. Okay, the command here is npx prisma studio. npx. Okay, you see Prisma Studio is going to be running at localhost. I'm just going to copy this and go to my browser and I'll paste it. It's going to open in your browser, your default browser automatically. But me, I'm going to copy it here and bring it to my browser here. I'll paste it here so that you see the studio. Okay, you see this our models here. We have the orders 20. You see all our 20 orders here. You can also add the other one. You see our tracking is 0 because we don't have anything there. Let's add the next one. Users is 4. So what I want to do is I want us to first delete all the records here before we go and sit the database now with all our records. So I'll just click here. I'll say delete 4 records. Delete. Yes, everything is deleted. Let's come to okay. This is giving this error here. So this error is getting showed here because the database tables are related. Yes, but that's not a problem. Just refresh the page. It's going to give you back your data, but start deleting from, because we didn't set delete cascade to this seller. So let's start deleting from our orders here. First start deleting the orders. Click all of this and delete. Yes, it's going to delete the orders. Now you come to the users. Now you can delete the users. Delete. Okay, the users are now gone without any problems. So I'm going to close this. Okay, this instance is okay. What I'll do now is I'll come back to our application here. This is where I'm going to run our command here. I'll run the command to seed our database here now. This is going to be npx prisma db seed, like this. Hit enter now. Hopefully this is going to seed our database with all our data. Okay, it's done. So seeded 4 users, seeded 20 orders, and seeded 20 tracking info. So now we're going to have all our data. Let's go and refresh our Prisma Studio. I'm not sure it's going to refresh with the new data. We need to run it back. Let me just check. Okay, it's here. Look, our tracking is here also. See, it's linked to the order. Every bit of information which we want is here. So we have our information inside of Prisma now. Inside of our database in Prisma. We have it inside our SQLite as well. So with this, now we can begin querying our database and see the various options available for us to work with our data. Before we go and create the UI for the dashboard, there is one thing I forgot to mention to you, though we are not going to be doing it here, but let me just show you in case you want to build your own application and you have a use case for it, where you have a use case for it and we have not yet covered it. So that's the case of many-to-many relationship, how to structure the many-to-many relationship with relational data. So let's head back to our Prisma schema here. Now, with many-to-many relationship, let's just pretend here that this order here is actually a product, because technically it's a product, but it contains some properties which a product doesn't. And what I want is that we can say this order can has another we can have another table here. We'll just call it model. I'll call this category. Let's say category, like this. And this category is going to have these two properties here. We have the ID and the name of the category. So with this, you can, if you look at the product, the order and the category, you see that an order can have can belongs to many categories, which is actually a product, and also a category can belong to many products. So there's a many-to-many relationship between this order and this category here. So how can we do now to model the relationship between an order and category? Now, with relational table, there is something you can do extra here. You need to create another table here in order to model that relationship. This is called explicit many-to-many relationship. That means you explicitly define a link table between the two models. So here, I'll just say this is model. I'll say model order category. This is how we are going to call it. And if you look here, it has an order ID and a category ID. Now it also has this color property here. It has this color properties here. We have the field for this order is referring to this order ID field here, while it's referencing our order ID here. While for the category, it is this category ID as the field in the other categories tables, while this ID for this scalar property here is referring to this ID for this category model here. So how do we if you hover our mouse here, you see an error is being shown. It's for the same reason that we need to balance the other end of this relationship. So we need to inform the other module that we are trying to form a relationship between them with this other category. So if you come here now to orders, you can just say orders is going to be of type other categories, which is actually going to be an array. So if you come now here, you see that this error here is gone. You need to do the same thing for the tracking here. For orders here, you can say orders, let's say other categories is of type other category. So now with this now, you see that everything works now perfectly. You can now create your many-to-many relationship using this link table. So this is the table that's going to be created in the database in order to link these two tables together. So that's how a many-to-many relationship works in a relational database. So what about the other scenario I talked about? I said earlier that also we can create this explicitly and implicitly. Implicitly, we don't need to provide this table ourselves. We don't need to provide this link table ourselves because Prisma is going to take the liberty to create this table for us. So we can delete this, and here you can say this orders here is just going to be of type category. Say category, yes, and here order category. You can just call it category. It's going to be of type categories. This is category. Oh, okay. This here, we are also passing category here. This is supposed to be orders. Sorry, guys. This is supposed to be orders. Order like this, yes. So now it's satisfied. See, the other end of the relationship is satisfied. Now Prisma is going to infer these types for us. It's going to say, oh, so you have a category here, and we also have an order here, but we do not have foreign keys for these two properties. That means this must be a many-to-many relationship. So it's going to go ahead and create a many-to-many relationship with that link table in the database for us. So what you should note here is that that link table is going to be available in the database, even if Prisma is inferring this many-to-many relationship. It's creating this many-to-many relationship for us, but that table is going to be available. Prisma is going to create that table in the database because that table is essential for a many relationship to work with relational database. Because I'm mostly referring to relational database here because that is what we are working with for in this application. So that is what I wanted to tell you here. Now we can go and begin building our user interface, our dashboard. For designing this dashboard overview page, which we have here, I'm going to start from this up bar here. After this up bar, we are going to have this cart here, and we have these tables here. Then with this chat section, all of this is dynamic, as I showed you before. You see, they all fall together like this. So we have the chat here, we have chat section here, we have the cart sections here. So this is it. Now we are going to design this. Now there's one thing about this dashboard you need to note. This dashboard is actually dynamic here. I mean, this up bar, since we are starting with it, I said let me show you, it's dynamic here. If you go to orders here, you'll see that you're going to have orders here, and we have a search bar here. But with the dashboard, you don't have a search bar. That's because the dashboard and they're using the same up bar. So we need to make that dynamic so that the user can use it in different locations in the application. Also for tracking here, we have this here, but on create here we do not have it. And also you see that on create here we have this breadcrumb here. We can go back to orders here. Yes, so those are the things we'll have in mind when we are creating this up bar. Now let's go and do just that. Let's do that. So I'll come here. The first thing we need to start looking at now is our component folder here. Let's start with this is the dashboard. We have pages. Let's get rid of all of this. Here, this is our pages. This is where we are going to start from. So, but before that, in this lib folder here, no, not lib, go to UI. This UI folder, we already have dashboard here with some default UIs in this UI here. I'm going to create another folder, and I'll call this components. I'll just call this components here. And in this components, I'm going to have a new file here. And I'm going to call this upbar.txs. Yes. And scaffold a new React application like this. And I'll just call this up bar. Okay, here I'm going to have a class name. I'll say class name here. I'll give a height of 20, and padding left and right of this is going to be 3. And on medium devices, for medium devices upward, I want to give a padding left and right of 7, like that. And the width here is going to be full. Flex is going to be, we're going to give a flex box while the items center, and the background is going to be indigo 500. There you go. Okay, with this, I'll give 2 divs here. The first one is going to have a flex of 1, and with a flex here, item center. Then justified is going to be between. Justified between. Yes, and in here, open or say children. This is going to be from React children. So that means we're going to take these children from props here, like this, and let's specify the type of children is going to be of React node. So here, I'll give another div. The class name, I want to give a margin of 10, margin left of 10, and on medium device, we want to give a margin left of 28. It's going to be of 28. Okay, here we are having an error here because we need to close this off like this. Okay, everything is now fine. Inside this div, I'm just going to have a bell icon. Bell icon is going to be 24 solid. I want the solid on. The class name, this is going to be, instead of 6 here, I'll put 10, and here is going to be 10 also. Pixels white, and I'll just say cursor pointer. So like this, we have the up bar now. Wherever we need this up bar, we are going to insert it in our page. So the first place is in this page here. So here I'm going to make this is going to be main, and I'll get rid of this. So I'll say up bar here. Oh, this have to be closing like this because init is expecting children. We need to pass some children here, and the child I'm going to pass here is a p element like this here, and here I'll just say dashboard like this. Okay, we need to give some styles here. It's a class name, and we'll give the styles there. So the text here is going to be, text is x large, and on medium device we want the text here to be 2x large, and text is going to be indigo. This is indigo 100, and the font is going to be bold. So with this, let's check this. Okay, this is tracker, this is dashboard. Okay, we have it here. This is our dashboard text here, and here we have this. Okay, I need to also make this text like cursor pointer. So let's go back. Say cursor pointer like this. Okay, now I need to create those cards, and for us to create those cards, we're not going to put it in this component. Let's put it in this dashboard here, this UI. Under UI dashboard, we're going to create, because it's dashboard specific, so I'll create a new file here, and I'll just call this let's say cards.txs rfce, and I'll just rename it to cards. Say class name here is going to say rounded x large. Yes, background is going to be indigo 100. Oh, this is indigo 100. Let's put 200. This is going to be 200. A p of 2, padding of 2, and a shadow of small. So the next we're going to have here is, let's have a def also here, flex and padding of 4. Before we go any further, let's bring in some the icons for that card, for those cards. I'll say icon map here, and in this I'll say pending. The pending icon is going to be clock Say clock icon, and I want to bring this clock. It's not going to be in. I want to bring this clock from React from we are using hero icons here, from hero icons, not React icons. And here I'll say on the way. This is for products that are on the way. Here I'm going to use the rocket launched icon, this one, and we have delivered like this. This is going to be the gift icon, this one. Okay, and the last is going to be reviews. We are not going to be performing reviews here, so the thing, this properties, this other one is here, is just for showcase reviews. Okay, now what we need to do is I need to get some options here from props. I need to get some props here, and these props are going to be, we have title, comma, value, and type. So the title is going to be string, the value is also going to be, title is going to be string, the value is going to be string, while the type is going to be string. So I want to give this value to either be string or a number, like this. Yes, it should be optional, string or number. So down here, we need to create the icon here. So const icon, we want to map over icon maps, and we just get the types for this icon here. If you hover your mouse up here, you see that they're telling us that this icon map has a type of any. So what we can do is, let's just explicitly give it a type of any here. So that error is going to go away, and now we can continue our work here. Here now, what we need to do is, I'll just render icon. If we have an icon here, say icon, I want to give a class like this. Yes, but here I want but 6. It's going to be 6, and also here this is going to be 6. This 7 going to be 6 here. So the text here, I want to give a grid text here instead of this. So let's just leave this indigo, but let's reduce it to like 30, like this, 300, like this. Yes. Now beneath this, I want to give a p element here, and it's going to have a class name of imagine left of 2. Text is going to be x large, font medium, and I'm just going to put a title here. Title. So right beneath this div, I'm going to give another p tag. I'll give it class. This class here. Oh, this. Okay. I'll say truncate. Rounded x large, and background white. Px of 4. Also give a py of 4. Text center, not clip, center, and text is going to be 2x large. Here, I think we are going to conditionally render, give it last name here. That's why I'm just putting it there for now. So say value. Okay, so now we have our icons. We have our icons here. Our card here. We have our cards here. What's left for us to do is to call these cards in our page, in this page.txs here. So down here below this up bar, I'm going to give a div here. In this div, I'll give grid. I'll say margin. This is going to be 5. Here, margin y, yes, it's going to be 5. And this is going to be grid column of 2. Grid column of 2, yes. And on medium device, this is on medium device, we want to have a grid column of 4 and a gap of 6. On large device, we also want to have a grid column of 4. Now in here, we can just place our cards. There's a card. On the way, yes. delivering, and reviews. Let's just give this static data like this. And now let's check. Okay, we have our cards here and we have our icons here. And this is how everything is looking at the moment. Now, the next thing we'll have down here is, let's go to dashboard here, is this latest orders and users, latest orders and users table. So we're going to create it now. Let's go back to the code and code this section here. I'll go back here. So after this div, I'm going to minimize it like this. I'm going to have another div here. Here, I'll say flex. Then on medium devices, we want this to be flex column and flex column reserve, flex column reverse here on normal device. So we're going to have another div here. It's going to be flex also. Width is going to be full, but on medium devices, we want overflow to be hidden. We don't want it to overflow the container. So the height here is going to be that. We'll just specify the height here, 400 pixels like that. Flex is going to be column and gap is going to be 5. And on medium devices here, flex is going to be obviously row. Yes, and items center. No, item is going to be start here. So like this. Now let me give some more space here. Control B and also below so that we see this full screen. So here I'm going to have a div here, and this div width is going to be full. Medium device, we want to have a width of this is going to be 1/2 like this. Yes, and in here I'm going to have an h1. I'll say latest orders, and I'll give it class name here. Text is going to be 2x large, and margin bottom is going to be 1. So while down here, I'll just give a div here, and I'll say latest orders content. So I'm going to copy this too. I'll paste it here. For this text, it's just going to read all users, because we have only 4 users here. Say users in DB. This is just placeholders. We're going to replace this with our actual content here. So let me see. Yeah, let's check. Okay, it's here. We have latest orders, all users here. Then the various contents enter here. The other one is going to enter here. Okay, this is fine. Let's go back and continue. Let's begin with the latest orders. So come back here. Let's come to UI, dashboard, create a new file. I'll say latest dash orders.txs. Okay, like this. RFCE. This is going to be latest orders. Since we are not yet fetching data, I'll just go and get this latest orders from our demo, from our seed data. So const latest orders is going to come from, say, orders dot slice. We just want to take 5 of them, and we can work with that 5 orders for now. When we begin to fetching our data, we're going to replace it here. So here I'll begin by giving a class name, the width of full, a height of full, also a background of indigo 200. Indigo 200 rounded is going to be MD, and P is going to be 2. So in here we are going to render our content for different screen sizes. The first here is going to be for this is going to be for desktop here. Then below this, we're also going to render for mobile devices. So let's start with the desktop here. With the desktop, I'm going to give a div here, and the first we'll have a class name. This is going to be hidden. Hidden here. On medium device, it's going to be block, because we want this to be available only for want this to be available only for big devices. So on smaller devices, we are setting this to hidden. So here, I want the background also of white, bg of white. Before we enter here, I just have to give a table like that. This table, I'll give a class name. This is going to be background. It's going to be indigo 200, yes, and width is going to be full. Right in here, we're going to have our table head, and inside this table head, we're going to have our td with with some columns here. I'm going to name these columns after, but here I'll give it. This is going to be px. I'll just name like this. This is x, px of 4, and also py of, okay, this is py of 6, like this. And here I can begin to give some names here. This will be order id, while this one here is going to be the products which we are which the user bought, and here we're going to have the date, and here is going to be the status. Okay, that one is correct. Now after the head here, we need to have the body. We need to have a body here. This, okay, so class name here, we're going to have a background of white for the body, overflow of hidden, rounded is MD. So it's inside this. Now we need to loop over our latest orders here. This is not correct. I'm going to loop over these latest orders. We need another, and in here we need to give our T arrows like this. We need another closing T arrow here. First thing foremost, we need to provide a key here, because this is React, so we need to provide a key. Order.id is going to be the key, and I'm going to close this here. Okay, so let's tie the whole of this. I'm going to I'll place my cursor here, here, and I'm going to highlight all of this because this is what I need to start. Here I'll say px dash of 6 and py of 3. I'll say white space is going to be no wrap. Okay, yes, I think that is okay for now. Here on this first TD, we want to where we have our image, we're going to put our image in one of these TDs here, because if you look at our head here, we are having the product ID. So the order ID is going to be order.id. Now inside here, we are not going to have order.product here because this is an object. So we're going to have the product name here and the image here. So let's first start with the image. With the image, I'm going to bring in the image component from Next.js here, like this. Now we need to close this image component. CJXS doesn't support attribute because it doesn't have props. Okay, let's bring this from next image. So this is going to be order dot product image, yes, and the alt text here is going to be product image. The height here, I'm just going to go with 30. For this also is going to be 30. Now this alt text product image, and I want to just add something to it, the product name actually. So this is going to be product dot product name. Yes. And here there's something I need to give a class name. We have a class name around it. Here is going to be full, and I want to have a height of 8 and a width of 8. Margin, this is going to be 3, and beneath this image we just have our order dot product name. Now I want to slice this product name into like 25 characters. Here, instead of 30, then here I'll say 25 characters. Yes. Now let's go to the next one, which happens to be this date. Before we even give that date, let's wrap all of this in a div. Here I'll just say flex item center like this, and we cut this, we'll place it here. Okay, now let's come to our date here. For now I'm going to go with this date like this, because later on we are going to create a function in order to format this date here. So I'll say to iso string, color this. We are going to create a function to format this date here in a better format. I think this desktop view is done. Let's come to the mobile view now. With the mobile view, I'll give a div here, flex here is going to be column, and on medium device we want hidden here and gap of 3 here. So in here we are going to give latest orders dot map here, and for each order we want for each order now we want to give a div here. The first thing I'll give here is a key before I forget. The key is going to be order dot id here. Before we can start styling now this form here, I'm going to say this is going to be rounded md, yes, px dash 3 and py for flex, and flex call a gap of 2 and a background white. In here now I'm going to have my image here, but before we have this, I'm going to copy this image component which we have here. Is the same thing we did here, so I'll just copy this, all of this div. In fact, I'll copy this div, I'll bring it down here, I'll paste it here, but instead here I'll just give a span, then I'll cut this, all of this, I'll put it inside the span. After this, I'm going to have a component for my status, because we are going to be using that status throughout this application. So I'm going to create a small component for the status here. So I'll come here inside this dashboard here, inside components, because we are going to be using it in many different places. I'll create a new file. I'll just say order dash status dot cxs here, rfce. I'll say order status. Okay, I'm going to be returning but a span here, not even a div. So I'll just say span, and we're going to have our class name here, and this is going to be a template literal here. Now before that template literal, we want to call our this function here, and we'll pass the template string here. I'll say inline here. It's going to be flex item center rounded. It's going to be full, px of 2 and py of 1, just like that. Here we're going to have an object. It is in this object that now we can specify our we can conditionally render our class names here. Say background dash green, background green of 100. Here we want a background green of 100. Let's put this in like this, and here this is when status is equals to delivered, but we don't yet have status, so we need to bring in our status from here. Status. Now we need to do the same thing here. Background yellow on the way, and background blue is pending. Here I'll say blue. This background green I'll just give like 800. This is going to be 8, and this is going to be 8 also. Okay, and now here we can just render the status here because we are passing it there. So let's say status. Now we have the order component. Let's go back to our latest orders and finish building it. Since we now have this order status, we can now pass the order status here. Let's say order status. We can just pass it like this. Okay, now let's come here. After this div, we want to create another div. So this other div is going to have flex item center. Items is going to be center and justified between here. And in here, we want to first render our price, then we have our status. Want to have our price, then we have the status there. So I'll just give like a div here. I'll say p, the price. This is going to be order dot price, and after that we want to have the date. Outside of this div now, I can just render our order status. This is order status like this. Okay, with this now we have our mobile view and our desktop view. Let's go and put this in our page. Here, instead of latest orders, I'll just say this is going to be latest orders. This. Okay, now let's see how it looks like. Okay, we have an error. This image here is coming from next image. That means we need to put this host name in our config file. So I'll just copy this host name here, and let's go to our package.json. Let's come to our next config here, and we need to add another. This is going to be host. I'll paste. Protocol is HTTPS. Now let's save. Our code is going to be rerun. If you check here, because we have changed next config, the program is going to run again. So let's go back. We are doing a lot of going back and forth. Let's refresh the page now and see. Okay, the page gets refreshed and we have our content here. So this is it. Okay, something really weird is happening here in this dashboard. Look at where our content is being placed. I'll refresh again. Okay. It reads here that hydration failed because the initial UI doesn't match what was rendered on the server. So let's check what we are doing wrong. What was rendered on the server? That means the server is rendering and hydration is not kicking in because our HTML have a problem. So let me see. Okay, I can see the problem here. Instead of body here, we can put T. This T body. Oh, not TB, T body. I hope this solves the problem. And also, if you come to our order status here, see we are passing background here to this green. We also need to pass text. I'll copy this. This is going to be text, actually text dash green 800. Why? The background here is 200. 2, yes, this is going to be 2. Why this is 2, yes, and the text here, text is going to be dash yellow. This is 800. This is 9. And the last one here, text, no, it's not there. Text dash blue is going to be 800. So with this, I hope this is going to work now. Let's come back to application. Okay, you see it here, guys. It's this is it here, and it remains here. We have our table here, but just that the table is a little bit right down. It's cutting off here because of the height and the width which we set for this table. So it's bleeding out here. What we need to do is I see also this header are too big. I'll try to adjust these headers. They are too big. So what I'll do is, let me come back here. Let's check our header. Come to latest order here. Okay, this order, interchanged these orders here. This is D. This is going to be 6. This is 6. While this is going to be 4. Like this. Okay, now it's better. It's okay now. So, yeah, we have the latest orders now. Now we just need to, let's duplicate the same thing for our users. We're going to do the same thing for our users here. Like I told you, we are going to format this date here. Look at how the date is. We're going to adjust this date. So we have, this is okay now. Let's see how the users are. With the users, we have only 3 fields here. We have the name, the email, and the phone number. So we're just going to have 3 fields: name, email, and phone number. So let's go and code that section. So I'm just going to duplicate this one here, this latest order. I'll come to copy and I'll paste. I'll rename it. This is going to be latest. This is dash users. Dash users. I'm just going to rename this order user. This order, you should see. This is dash. This dash stands for dashboard users, dash users, and here we are going to be exporting dash users. Okay, and here we are going to be bringing in the users, not the latest orders. Users. We don't need orders here, and we are not going to be slicing this because we have only 5. So we need to remove this ID column here. We don't need that ID column. And here is going to be the name. Here is going to have the name. And after the name, we'll have the emails. After the emails, we'll have phone numbers. Phone number. Okay, so here for the users don't have product image, but they have an avatar. Yes, and here we just get the user's name here, and here this is going to be the user's name, and we can remove this one here too, this other ID, because we don't have it up there. So we are left only with these 3. Instead of other status here, I'm just going to wrap this in. This is going to be our user dot phone. No, this is user order. Okay, we are using the order here. We're supposed to actually be user. Okay, so this is order dot phone number. Let me change these orders here. So here, latest orders. I'm just going to change this to users. Let's say dash users. And here we just have users. This is user, and here is going to be user dot id, and here in this we'll have users dot avatar. So I'll just remove all of this. So user avatar and username. Here is going to be user dot username. This is user don't have a price, so we are going to remove this last one here, and we'll just be left with this one. This is going to be user email, and this is user dot email, while this other one is going to be user dot phone number. Okay. Now for these orders too, I just want to replace these orders. Okay, no, I'll just replace them manually. So this is going to be user, 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 user. Okay, all of this now is done. Now we just need to bring the dashboard user into our page here. Here, instead of this, we have dash users. Let's save. Let's go and check our result. Okay, we still have another error from this because these other images for users are coming from a different domain. So we need to do the same thing. Let's copy. Let's go to our next config. We'll do the same thing here. The host and protocol is going to be HTTPS. My terminal is stopped here, so I need to restart the terminal here with npm run dev. Okay, the development server is now back up and running. Let's go and check our application back. Okay, it's still here. Let me refresh the page. Maybe the changes are going to be picked up now. Okay, we still have this error. Let us copy again and check if we are doing everything right. HTTPS, yes. This is the host name. Copy. Invalid source prop. Okay, here we are having this error that we don't have invalid source prop. So, okay, what happens? First, I specify this thing and now it seems as if it's removed again. Let's say local host name. I'll paste it here. And protocol is going to be HTTPS. Let's try again this time around. I hope this time around I'm not going to roll back these changes. I rolled back these changes without knowing. So let's check again. Refresh. Okay, so we see this. We have our data now here. This are our users and our orders here. So everything is here. These are our users and we have the orders here. Now, what is left for us is to just put our chat here. We need to put our chat down here, and this home page is done. So let's go and put our chat down there. This video is running too long. So let's come back to our application here. Let's go to pages. Let's go to pages. Okay, this is it. Now we are done with this section. The next section now is going to be this is going to be for the chat. So here I'll just say width is going to be full, margin bottom of 8, height of, I want to give a fixed height of 350. Yes, 350 pixels like this. And inside this div, I want to have an h1 that will say chat section here, and the class name going to have a text of 2x large and a mobile margin bottom of 2. Down here we need to render our chart. I'll say order chart. We don't yet have this order chart, so what I'll do is we're going to create this other chart in the dashboard here. No, not here. In the UI section, not component, UI. Create a new file. Wait, this has to be in UI and dashboard. We'll create a new file in the dashboard section here. I'll call this order chart.txs. I've been doing this like this, so let me just continue. Order chart.txs. So here I'll just say array of ce order chart. Now for this order chart, I'm going to use a rechart in order to put this chart in our map. So I'm going to use a rechart. So where are we going to get recharts from now? So let's go to our browser. Let's type here rechart. Let's say recharts. So if you come to their guide here, you see this is the npm installation here. Want to install it? I'll first copy. Let's go and install it first before anything. Let's wait for it to install. Okay, rechart is installed now. Let's go back. And we need to let's go to the example section. The one I want is, I want a, not a scattered, not a bar chart. Let me see. Tiny area chart. No. The one I'll go for here is this one, this brush chart. Yes. Because this brush chart, it can take a large number of items. That means here we can have even up to 40 users within this timeline, even 100 users within this timeline, and we can reduce the number of users which you want to view on a particular page like this. Let's just say to around 5 users on a particular page here. So see, so that's why we're going to be using this brush chart here. So what I'll do is I'll copy this code here, everything we have here, just copy it plus this data. I'll start with this data here, copy this data, because we're going to replace this data with our aggregated data later. So we're going to copy this. Let's go back to application. Here, I'll paste the data here first. And let's go and copy the imports also. I'll copy all of these imports from here. I'll copy, I'll come back here. Let's come back to the application and I'll paste this imports here. So you see, one thing here is, let's see, pure components from React. Okay. Let's go copy the rest sections. Let's copy this responsive container now into our application. Just copy. Let's go back. And instead of this, we're just going to give our responsive container here. I think we're going to get some errors. No errors. Well, that's fine. Let's save. Now let's bring this responsive container. Let's bring this into our application, into our page. Where's the page section here? Just immediately after this, I'm going to say this is chart order. How did you call this? This is order charts. Order charts. Okay. Now there is one thing here with this order chart. If we leave this order charts like this, it's going to throw us an error because none of this rechart is coming from. All of these rechart components are client components. So we need to mark this as use. We need to opt into client. Say use client. So with this, we have opt into client component. This is now a client component. So save. Let's go and see what this looks like in our browser. Let's come to track here. Okay, it's not yet showing up. Let's try to refresh. we have chat section here. Okay, this we have the data here, but this chat section is coming up right in here, so we need to try to adjust that, and also here. So let's fix it. So if you look at now, all our page is shifting down because of this element is longer than this height here. So we need to adjust that also. So let's go back here. I think we're going to do that in pages here. So the first thing I'm going to do here is I'll give a class name here. We never did give a class name here. So here I'll just say height is going to be screen, and width is going to be full, and overflow here is going to be auto. Overflow is auto. Okay, that one is done. Let's come here, let's check. Okay, this margin bottom here, instead of bottom here I'll put top. That was a mistake. And where again, yes, we need to remove this height here. We can remove this height. We don't need this height here again, but we need the height for this chart here, because I don't want this chart to have a funny shape. That's why I'm giving this height here. So now let's check. Okay, we have it here. We have everything here now, and everything is nicely. It's only this is scrolling. Only this section is scrolling. As I told you before, there are many things you can drag. You can drag this section here right up to this point here, and let's check how responsive this is. Okay, so this is it. It's not looking bad. So we have it here. This is our users, and this is our orders. Okay, now with this, what we are left to do is let's just go and I'll write some loading skeletons. I'll provide you with the loading skeletons for this section. So in the course, in the GitHub repository, you'll see a folder called skeleton.js. This is going to contain all the skeletons for these components here. So we're going to use that file in order to perform our data fetching in the next section. For now, what I want to do again before I finish up with this section is to format this date. I want to format this date so that we have a good date information here. So let me go and do that before we finish up with this section. So I'll come to the lib. I think the best place to keep that information is in the lib folder here. And you just get to create a new file here. I'll say utils, which stands for utilities. And in this utils folder, we are going to, the first thing I'm going to export is I want to format date and also format time. Yes, I want to get a date and time formatter also. So the first here is going to be our date format const format date. So a date is going to have a date string, which is going to be of type string, and it's also going to have a local, which is going to be of type string. And I want to set the default for this local here to be, let me first close this. I'll set the default to be English Korea. So string, this is going to be yen-kr. In here, the first thing I'll do is I'll create a date using whatever string we are going to receive from this function here. And the second is options. I want to create some options here. In these options, I want the year to be numeric, month to be numeric, because we are going to use the international date API. So we are going to use the international date API here. So say const formatter is equals to new international time format. Here we are passing the local and our options. Here now I'm just going to return formatter.format date, but we are having an error here. Why are we having this error? Let's check here. Utils. So argument of type year string is not assignable to parameter of type date format option, which is year, month, day. So we can provide the types for this option, because I think that's why the error here is not showing the right. We are having an error here because the type here is not correct. So here we can say this is going to be of type international dot date time format options. Yes. Okay. With this now, our error is gone. Now we have our date format of function to format date. We are also going to write another function to format the time. So here, rather than writing another function that was going to look similar like this, we can just reuse this function here. I'm going to pass another parameter here. I'll say set time here, and this is going to be of type boolean. Okay, what is this? Yes, that's going to be of type boolean. And if we can set as, if set time, we set it to numeric, else we set it to undefined. Here, if we have this set time boolean property here, if we set it to true, then we're going to set our type here to numeric. But I don't want it to be in hours like this. I want it to be in the 12 hours format. So I can say 12 here, and here instead I'll just say true here. Else, oh no, say set time here is going to be true or undefined. Okay, like this. Now we are able to format our date and time here using this format date function here. So let's go to where we have to use this. Let's come to Dutch. Let's just come to latest orders here, where we have our time. Let's come, where do we have our time? Here we have, okay, this is it. So here I'm just going to say format time, format date, yes. And I'm going to pass our order dot created at. This is going to be dot to string. No. So this is to string. This is, yes, to ISO string. Yes, it's still giving us an error here because we have two other properties to fill in here. Now, I've just seen here that we actually have a problem here with this date format here, because something like this local here, which have a default value here set to this, we need to put this default value to be this local here to be the last parameter to this function here. So I'll just copy this, paste it here, and I'll remove this like this. Now let's come back here. We can also just specify and say we do not want, let's say false here. If you say false here, now you see that this error goes away and we are going to have our date without a time here. Let's go and check. Okay, so you see we have our date here, December 15, 2023. This is when all of this has been created. So you see we have everything here. Now we are formatting the date. We need to format it also here. Now let's check for time, if the time is going to be available here also. Let's see if we're going to have our time here. So I'll come to, let's go back here. Instead of where is it? Instead of false, I'll say true. Let's save. Let's go back. Okay, nothing shows. Let's go back and see what is wrong with that function. This, you have latest orders here. Let's go to this function here. So if you come to utils here, okay, now here we need to set some additional properties here. We have the hours here. I'll set hours too. It's going to be numeric also. We also need to set minutes here like this. I think with this now, it's going to work. So I'll come back here. Let's go back to our application and check. Yes, okay. You see now our time now is here at this time here. You see, we have the time here now. So our date and time is also working. Now let's go back here. We can remove this from being true. What we can also do is for this function, instead of setting true and false, let's set a default of false too. Let's set a default of false so that we just have to pass this date format like this here. So I'll come back to utils here, and here I'm going to also set a default to false. So like this, now everything is okay. So with this, I think we are wrap up with this section now. This section is now completed. So everything is fine now with this section. Okay. Oh, I need to change this too. I need to change this. Let me see. And I need to change it here also. And yes, only there. So let's hurry and change it before we close this section. You have this here. We need to change it here. This is going to be format date and yes, that one's finished there. Status component, we don't need it here. We'll remove it. And we have latest orders here. We need to pass it here also. Format date okay, now this is fine. This section is now completed. So let's see. Okay, the date is now formatted and everything is here now. About the loading skeletons, you can copy the loading skeletons from this folder. I'm going to show you the folder here when we start fetching our data. So it is in a skeleton in the root of our UI folder called skeletons. So it contains all the skeletons we're going to use in these applications. So with this section now is finished. See you in the next section where we'll begin fetching our data. Bye.